Welcome on back to The Reckoning. Into the next segment we roll along, and I get to welcome back now. Did we get him on the phone? No, not yet? All right. Well, I'll save it so he can hear it. But let me set this up. We're going to talk with, hopefully here, Mr. Ed Martin, the U.S. pardon attorney. But this has been a banner year, a banner week, really, for firearms rights. A lot of big things. And, you know, from the NFA decision down in the state of Texas that seems to not have an appeal coming at it, although we'll see as that countdown continues, from that to a bunch of other court cases out of Texas, there have been excellent rulings. And yet one more thing that needs to be discussed, something that has been shut off for really nearly 30 years at this point, was the potential to have your federal firearms rights restored. And that has been closed since 1992. I think we can actually look back to Mr. Chuck Schumer as a thank you for that. But what's been announced out of the Department of Justice this week from U.S. Attorney General Todd Blanche, now confirmed into that role. Again, one of the top priorities, obviously, for him coming into it now confirmed, is the U.S. Department of Justice has finalized a rule that is going to give convicted felons and others a pathway to have their rights to legally possess firearms reinstated. And this has essentially been a de facto prohibition by Congress since, like I said, I think it was 1992 or 1993. And to get this done, you know, it's something that's been a very interesting change in society, because there was certainly a point at which you would see the more hard on crime right wing or Republicans say, no, hold on a minute. We're not here to let felons vote and felons get guns and this and that and the other. But in the last 10 years, many different factors have changed, and I think made that a more nuanced discussion, up to and including especially January 6, 2021, when a weaponized federal Department of Justice sent forth its agents after American citizens who showed up unarmed at a political rally, at a political march. And what happened? They were torn away from their families, thrown into prison. A lot of them received incredibly unjust treatment, due process rights trampled in the D.C. courts. And now many of us have looked around and said, you know what, there might be something to this. Let's take a look at the difference in offenders and what exactly this came from. So I tell you, this is something that has been long overdue for a look and definitely has had its priority with a lot of people. And joining us now to talk about this new potential pathway to restoring firearm rights, at least at the federal level, U.S. pardon attorney and our old friend, Eagle Ed Martin. Ed, how are you doing, sir? Thanks for being on with me for a few.
I'm glad to be with you, Ryan. You're somebody that I know loves the Constitution and loves firearms and understands the importance. So I think this is a great story for all of us. And I'm really excited. I mean, just the thumbnail is the Constitution is bigger and more important, more fundamental than a lot of the nonsense and the politics and all. And this is a case where President Trump is saying, hey, look, you should have a right, to be able to petition and say, hold on, if I did something wrong and I paid the penalty, can I have back the Second Amendment right? Because again, it's so fundamental. It's not about, being able to shop online or in person. It's not like some kind of piddly thing, even about commerce. It's a fundamental right. Second Amendment, it's like free speech, shouldn't be able to be taken away and kept away without really good reasons. So it's very cool. I'm excited to have been a part of it. And I think we're going to see millions of people, take this program and make it a better part and make their life better because of it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I was just saying before we got you on the phone here that, I mean, I think that a lot of us, the right has often just been the hard on crime. We're not cracking down or letting off on criminals, but our definition of what exactly has happened and, how people are prosecuted and for what they were prosecuted, if their crime was paid, a lot of that has changed, I think, in a lot of minds since January 6, 2021, watching the weaponized government go after people who showed up at a political protest. I think there are a lot of us who are more open to saying, hold on a minute. Maybe there is a point here. What about nonviolent offenders? What about people maybe who were wrongly convicted or we think unjustly convicted? Is there not a pathway forward? And according to Congress, really since 1992, there has been none. So this is something the DOJ is working around. How does that work? If this is something that's been prohibited by Congress, what kind of rule change could get a process that might go a different direction?
Well, first of all, let me say, I mean, you're exactly right. I think a lot of we conservatives, like rock-ribbed conservatives, hard on crime, have sort of come through the vortex. I mean, we've been pilled, and we are seeing something. And what in this case we're saying is the Second Amendment. Look, let's say you do your taxes wrong in 1985, to plead guilty to felony tax charge, and you pay a fine, and you're on probation. Well, that's the sentence. The sentence shouldn't be for the rest of your life. You lose your right to your Second Amendment protections, and also that's kind of the example I give. And by the way, I've heard from people who have called in and written, emailed already in the last 48 hours saying these kinds of examples. So there are 30 million people in the country that have some disability on their Second Amendment rights. A lot of those are felons, and many of those are violent. Well, our system is going to allow you to apply, to petition. And if you're a violent criminal, you're not going to get back your rights. We're not going to be stupid about it. We're going to be smart. But, Ryan, you alluded to something that's so important, and I just want to underscore it because I wish we had more arrests and more people, Fauci in cuffs. And trust me, I'm living, Ryan, you and I text all the time about it. But let me say something to you about Donald Trump. Since 1992, there have been Republican presidents, Republican Houses and Senate, and they've refused to make it so that we can do this. The law has existed since 92. It's been defunded and blocked. It's been positioned in ATF with no, management authority, all this kind of junk. It was Trump.
We may have lost you there.
The Attorney General.
There
he says to me, Ed, you got to get it done. You got to get this done. And you got to get it done. You got to go and get this because since 92, it's been blocked by Democrats and Republicans. We're using this tool to let people apply, and then we're going to use our judgment. And I can tell you, Ryan, you know me, I'm inclined to give people a break and let them have their gun rights back. But you know what? The politicians say, oh, that's risky. What if someone gets their rights back and they do something bad? And Trump says, well, my Diet Coke, I'm going to respect the Constitution and give people the freedom to make mistakes or not. And that's what we're doing with this. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, well, you're absolutely right. The Constitution is absolute. And guess what? Liberty is not always safe and not always comfortable. Sometimes You have to make dicey decisions. But you got an excellent example right off the bat there. So what? Someone 25 years ago committed tax fraud. It was in a felonious amount. And they paid their dues to society. They lived a clean line since. This isn't a violent criminal. At what point do we say, right, okay, you paid your dues. You did something that wasn't right. It was illegal. But you don't have your rights stripped away from you in perpetuity. This isn't the way forward. What's the timeline on something like this? Obviously, it's a federal rule. Usually there's a public comment period. What would the timeline be for something like this, a portal to open?
Well, let me tell you, it took me the last year. We got through that public comment period. It's all through and it's back and forth. And now we published the rule, which means for 30 days it has to be published and then it's active. But we're already starting the rollout. So if you go to there's a website, justice.gov/FFRR, that stands for Federal Firearm Rights Restoration, but FFRR. You can see the basics of it. We're going to roll this thing out. I mean, Ryan, I can tell you, I'm afraid of anything. I think there's going to be millions of people. The professionals say they think there'll be 300,000. I think if there's 30 million people that have this disability, that I think we're going to have 3-4 million. So we'll see. But because of that, we're going to roll it out. So you're going to see, if you go to that website, how it's going to happen. The portal will be open in the next few weeks. After that, we'll start taking thousands. First round, I think we're going to take 500 in a week or two. Then we'll take 1,000. Then we'll take 5,000. And then by the middle of the fall, and certainly by the first of the year, it's Katie bar the doors. It's wide open and however many want it. So there'll be she says there should be a fee. There has to be a fee. I didn't really want to do that myself, but there's a nominal fee for the application and there's an application online. So it's going to be a work in progress. But I'll tell you this. We're going to hurry and we're going to beat up the deep state and the swamp when they try to slow things down, which is frankly a constant fight. But that's what we have to do and we'll do it. It's going to be really cool. Yeah,
there you go. Justice.gov/FFRR, Federal Firearm Rights Restoration. Of course, Ed, I've just got about a minute or two left. This has been it's been a banner week for the Second Amendment when it comes to the courts. We had a few big decisions out of Texas, obviously the DOJ involved there. I'm curious. I know this one obviously sits firmly inside your purview as a U.S. pardon attorney. This rights restoration is right there. And there's been a lot of great stuff coming out of your office from the J6ers and a lot of other folks. There has been justice served when there was no due process before, at least not under the Biden administration. So I'm curious with some of the other things that are swirling. I know obviously the big Texas case over the NFA that we've heard from Congress that they've said, the DOJ tells us they don't intend to appeal. Obviously, there's going to have to be rules clarifications, though, across the board from DOJ and all the agencies under them, FBI and ATF. Is there any scuttlebutt about, this seems like some really solid constitutional directions, decisions, federal rules, or allowances, the failure to appeal. it seems like we're moving in a good constitutional direction from the DOJ. Is that the feeling you're getting from the inside? Oh, did we lose him? No, he might have blanked out on me. You know those tunnel systems.
Hey, how about now? Hey, Ryan.
Oh, I hear you.
Can you hear me now?
There it is. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I got some weather coming in here. Listen, I was in the meeting last Friday after the decision came down out of Texas talking about that. I can tell you that the DOJ's instincts are like yours. We want to lock this in, and we don't want to go backwards on the Second Amendment on this protection and on what, is really gun control issues. So there's some details to work out. By the way, one of the superstars of this whole fight is John Sauer. John Sauer is a St. Louis guy. The Sauer family is well known, and he's the Solicitor General of the whole state, the whole country, and he's involved in this. So I'm really confident. I will say this: Todd Blanche is the Attorney General now. He's got 2A in his blood. His family is big 2A. I think they were even in the gun sales business at one point. So on this issue, it's solid and it's great. And we're going to see more and more progress. And I think across the board. But again, I'm going to highlight for you, Ryan. Most presidents play politics. They act like politicians. And Trump says go, go. And that's what we're doing. It's pretty darn exciting.
Yeah, it is. And I'm glad to hear John Sauer in the mix. Boy, those Missouri legal boys, you and Will Scharf and John Sauer, there's been some great stuff.
Unbelievable.
And this is great. I don't know what grader. I mean, I think we should put John Sauer on the Supreme Court. White House General Counsel, obviously, Will just got an upgrade. Maybe VP for you in 2028. Something like that. We need to keep giving out some upgrades to our Missouri legal boys. Well, that's great news. I appreciate hearing from the inside. I'm so excited about this federal rights restoration pathway that's opening. I think this is very needed. And again, it's just each of these strokes of the pen or the federal rules or registers, court decisions and appeals or the lack thereof indicate to me that the DOJ is starting to take not just anti-Biden era steps, but real constitutional decisions. I think that's something we should all take excitement in.
I agree with you. I think that, you and I both can be pretty tough on the government, no matter which party, and then Trump even. But I think when we make progress, it's worth celebrating. And look, I'll just point in this direction. If you don't think it matters who's in charge in November, when the election comes, you're not paying attention to the seriousness of this. I mean, the guys in Michigan, the guy that's, I guess, a Senate candidate says he wants to get rid of the Second Amendment completely. I mean, okay. I mean, we got one side is trying to protect your rights that we think is fundamental, and the other says get rid of it. I don't know. I just want people to notice that, No,
you're absolutely right. They want to remove it, and that's, I think, a key thing, because that Second Amendment that you all are charged with protecting, that's the one that protects all the others, quite frankly. An armed citizenry is the reason we are as free as we are. And I appreciate each part of the fight that y'all are keeping up. Ed Martin, U.S. Pardon Attorney. You can follow him on X at Ed Martin DOJ, of course, at Eagle Ed Martin, his personal account. And the one-time great host of the Pro America Report here on the Real Talk. He took a little downgrade to go to the DOJ, but that's okay. We need people in the fight.
There you go. Ed, that's good. All right, keep it. Thanks for everything you're doing, Ryan. Keep up your good work, and we'll talk again soon.
Sounds good. Thank you. You too. Folks, there are big things moving, and I think it is in a good direction. And you just heard him say there's a lot more that needs to happen. We got people that need to be in cuffs. Dr. Fauci, we're looking at you and a bunch of others. But I will take each one of these wins as we continue to march forward, especially on one of our most fundamental rights that undergirds the others, that right to protect ourselves, that right to bear arms. It is not just for the trashy dirtbag that might want to mug you on the street or invade your home. It is, in fact, as well, to protect us from what we once left, to protect us from a fully centralized government. That is why it is so important. I'm glad to see the DOJ going for it. We'll be back, folks. More reckoning ahead on the other side of the break.